I buried my father, but they buried me with him, and smiled doing it. My name is Ava Collins. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because the day they thought they erased me from his legacy was the day my father spoke louder than death. It was a heavy afternoon, the kind where the air tastes like ashes and regret. Dad's funeral was held in the family's old church, the one where I wasn't invited to Christmas for 5 straight years. I showed up in black, simple heels, no makeup. No one greeted me. Not my mother. Not my sister. Not a single relative looked up. They acted like I was a ghost, which, to them, I might as well have been. I took a seat in the back, right side of the aisle. The one where the ignored sit. The ones they hope won't speak. I didn't come for drama. I came because I still loved the man we were putting in the ground, even if he never said it out loud. I knew he saw me. That's when I heard it. A voice. Not a whisper. Loud enough for the entire row to hear. She's just here for the money. It was my sister, Vanessa, draped in diamonds and designer grief, eyes dry as dust. She was smiling. Next to her, my mother leaned in and chuckled.
Yeah.
He didn't like her at all. Their voices weren't hushed. They wanted me to hear. I felt my throat tighten, not from sadness, but from the kind of quiet rage that simmers when someone steps on your dignity in the middle of your grief. I didn't turn, didn't flinch. I just looked ahead, right at the casket. Hi, Dad.
You were right.
They haven't changed. The priest read his prayer. The choir sang songs none of us believed. And the service ended without a single mention of me, the oldest daughter. The lawyer stood near the altar, a man in a gray suit holding a locked box and a digital tablet. Everyone assumed it was for the reading of the will, but instead, he stepped forward and said, Mr. Collins left specific instructions. A message to be delivered publicly, today. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Seriously? The lawyer didn't blink. He tapped the screen. And then, my father's face appeared. The room stilled. He sat in his leather chair, looking frail but focused. If this is being played, it means I'm no longer here. And if you're watching, then you're standing in the same room where too many truths were buried under silence. Vanessa's jaw twitched. Mom adjusted her shawl. My heart
stopped.
Dad looked into the camera. Right through it. Right into them. This family has favored masks over honesty for far too long. And today, I'm choosing to tell the truth. The lawyer paused the video. Everyone was frozen. Some in confusion. Some in fear. Then he said, There's more. But the next part will not be forgotten. I leaned forward, because what came next
would not just change my life.
It would shatter theirs. When people say black sheep, they imagine rebellion. I wasn't that. I didn't sneak out. I didn't scream. I didn't run wild. I just existed wrong. Too quiet. Too serious. Too much like him. My mother hated that about me. So did Vanessa. I think that's why Dad always kept a soft spot for me, even if he didn't know how to show it. Growing up, our house was a palace of conditional affection. Vanessa cried. She got hugs. I cried. I got told to toughen up. She failed classes and got spa days to relieve stress. I got a B+ and was told I was slipping. Mom once said I was more efficient than affectionate. At 11. But I never questioned it. I just learned to adapt. Did chores without being asked. Organized Christmas. Remembered everyone's birthdays, even when no one remembered mine. And Dad? He didn't say much, but he noticed. He'd leave a note on my desk. Good work. Thank you for the spreadsheets. Saw what you did. I appreciate it. Small things. But when love is rare, even crumbs feel like banquets. Then came the breaking point. Vanessa, accidentally, used my name to open a line of credit. When I found out and told our parents, they brushed it off. Mom said, You can afford it. Why are you always so dramatic? Dad didn't say anything at the time. But 2 days later, he called me. You okay? That was all. But it was everything. I left home at 19. Not in a blaze of glory. Just quietly. After dinner. with a suitcase.
No one stopped me. No one asked why.
They just let me fade. Vanessa took my room. Mom turned it into a dressing closet within a week. And I never went back. Still, I kept in touch with Dad. Holiday calls. A few visits. We weren't close, not by anyone else's standard. But it was the only relationship in that house not wrapped in poison. I could breathe around him. And I think in his later years he began to see just how deep the damage went. He once told me on the phone, I made mistakes. I didn't ask which ones. I just said, we all did. His voice cracked when he replied, thanks for still showing up. 3 weeks before he died, he called me again. It was late.
His voice was weak.
You'll come to the funeral, right? Of course. He paused, then added, just make sure you show up. Okay. I didn't understand what he meant. Not then. But when the lawyer tapped that tablet and his face appeared in front of everyone who had treated me like a ghost, I finally knew. That call wasn't a request. It was a warning. Dad hadn't forgotten me. He'd been waiting for them to show their true faces, so he could show mine. The screen glowed in the silent chapel. My father leaned forward, eyes steady, voice calm, but there was a flicker of something in his tone. Intent. If this is being played, then you already know the end of my story. But today, you'll hear the parts one never said out loud. People shifted in their seats. Vanessa's fiancé pulled out his phone. My mother folded her arms, jaw tight. And me? I didn't blink, because I could feel it. Something was coming. I wasn't a perfect man. I was harsh,
Distant.
I let things slide I shouldn't have, especially when it came to my daughters. He looked away for a second, then back to the lens. Vanessa, I know you've always been loved loudly. Ava, you were loved quietly. Too quietly. And that was my mistake. The room froze. I heard a sharp inhale from someone in the front row. Then he continued. Over the last year, I watched and listened more than I spoke. I saw things I once ignored.
Lies. Mockery.
A pattern I was blind to, but not anymore. He glanced down, then looked straight into the camera. That's why I changed my will. A collective gasp rippled through the pews. Vanessa sat up straighter. My mom turned red. My assets have been reassigned. The Collins family estate? Left to Ava. My business shares and retirement accounts? To Ava. The inheritance fund? Donated to a scholarship, named in Ava's honor. To Vanessa and Margaret, I leave $1 each. The lawyer closed the file. The echo of that number, $1, was louder than any scream could have been. Vanessa leapt up. This is a joke. But the lawyer didn't even flinch. He opened a locked envelope, stamped and notarized. This is Mr. Collins' updated, court-validated will. Dated and signed. Witnessed. Video recorded. Unchallengeable. My mother hissed. You manipulated him. That's what this is. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Because my father's voice cut through her accusation like a blade. No one manipulated me. For the first time, I just finally saw clearly. Chaos unfolded in whispers. People turning to one another. Uncles staring, pale. Cousins clutching purses. My sister looked like someone had just slapped her with a ghost's hand. She kept opening her mouth, then closing it again. She couldn't process it. Because the girl she laughed at, the one they left out of photo albums, dinners, holidays, was now the owner of everything they had built their lives around. But my father wasn't done. He nodded once in the video. For those asking why, there's another video. A second file. Play it. The lawyer didn't hesitate. He tapped the screen. A new window opened. Grainy. Lower quality. A time-stamped recording from the study's hidden camera system. Vanessa leaned forward. Mom froze. They knew what it was. And I smiled. Because this wasn't just a will. It was a witness. And what came next was going to burn the mask off every lie they ever told. The second video began with a faint crackle. It was a security cam feed, grainy, slightly tilted, but clear enough to capture everything. The study. Nighttime. Time-stamped 2 months before Dad's death. Vanessa walked into frame. Phone pressed to her ear. Mom followed. They didn't know they were being recorded. She's pathetic, Vanessa said, laughing. Still trying to impress him with spreadsheets and loyalty. It's so exhausting, Mom sighed. She's like a lab assistant who thinks she's a daughter. Laughter. Not the kind that slips out. The kind that's sharp, deliberate. What if she shows up again? Vanessa asked. She won't, Mom snapped. She knows she's not wanted. If she does, we'll make her wish she hadn't. Then something shifted. Vanessa lowered her voice. So, about the trust files? My breath caught. Dad's trust. His private records. Vanessa opened a folder on the bookshelf. One I recognized. She pulled out papers. I already copied the last version. All we need is to find the passwords, and we can adjust it before he signs the final draft. Just do it fast, Mom said. He's slipping. He won't even notice. The entire chapel was frozen. All you could hear was the sound of their voices, their own words turning into knives. She's just a backup plan, Mom added. Always was. Always will be. And then, the worst of it. Vanessa, smiling. Let her come to the funeral. Let her beg. Then we'll bury her with nothing. The video cut to black. No dramatic music. No final line. Just silence.
Real. Cold.
Final. Like the air had been sucked out of the room. The lawyer didn't speak. He didn't need to. The crowd was already shifting. People stared at Vanessa with wide eyes. One aunt stood up and walked out, shaking her head. Vanessa tried to stand. This is taken out of context. No one believed her. Because context wasn't needed when your truth was recorded by your own arrogance. Mom covered her mouth, blinking rapidly, like tears might save her. But no one offered her a tissue. I sat still. Not triumphant. Just calm. Like something inside me had finally landed. Not revenge. Validation. They hadn't just destroyed our family from the inside. They tried to erase me by turning me into a ghost at my own father's funeral. But instead, Dad turned them into ghosts of their own cruelty. After a long pause, the lawyer closed the tablet. Mr. Collins asked that we play this in full. He believed truth should never be buried. He glanced toward me. Ms. Collins, he also left you a personal letter. It's waiting in his desk. My mother looked like she might faint. Vanessa didn't look at me. She just stood there, shaking. And I stood up, walked past them without a glance, and said nothing, because my silence now spoke louder than anything they ever screamed. Funerals usually end in flowers, hugs, and awkward casserole drop-offs. This one ended in disgrace. Vanessa stormed out of the chapel first, heels echoing like gunshots on the marble. People moved out of her way like she was contagious. Her fiancé, a smug investment type with hair gel and no backbone, followed for about 10 steps, then stopped. He turned around and walked back inside. I watched from a distance as he whispered something to my aunt, then slipped out the side exit alone. Later, someone told me he called off the engagement the same night. No ring. No tears. Just, you didn't tell me who you really were. Mom tried to save face. Clung to distant cousins. Faked coughs. Forced a smile when someone offered condolences. But everyone had seen the video. Everyone heard her say I was a lab assistant. A burden. And now, suddenly, no one wanted to sit beside her. Even the pastor skipped shaking her hand. Back at home, I opened the letter the lawyer mentioned. It was sealed in a plain, white envelope. No fancy stationery. No dramatic signature. Just Dad's handwriting.
Ava.
I know this doesn't fix everything. I should have spoken up more. Should have protected you better. But I want you to know I never stopped seeing you. Even when I was silent, I was watching. And I'm proud of the woman you became in spite of all this. You never needed my wealth. But I'm giving it to you anyway, because you earn my respect. Don't waste it on them.
Dad.
I folded the letter gently.
And I cried.
Not for him.
Not even for me.
But for the girl I used to be, the one who waited for a moment like this and thought it would never come. In the days that followed, things unraveled fast. Mom tried to call. I let it ring. Vanessa filed to contest the will, the same will she tried to forge. The judge threw it out in minutes. Overwhelming evidence of intent to defraud, the court said. This contestation is dismissed with prejudice. Vanessa's face in court looked like a mask melting. Mom whispered to her as they left, "We'll fix this." But they wouldn't, because this wasn't something they could silence. Couldn't erase with money. Couldn't manipulate into memory. This was truth, signed and sealed, backed by law and video, and etched into the minds of everyone who once thought I was disposable. For the first time in years, people started reaching out to me. Aunt Monica wrote, "I owe you an apology. I stayed quiet too long." Uncle Ray said, "I always thought something fell off. I should have called you." Even Vanessa's childhood friend messaged, "You deserved better. I see it now." It didn't heal everything, but it did something better. It proved I wasn't crazy. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't dramatic. I was just telling the truth in a room full of people who had built their lives on lies.
Now,
they had to live with it. Some inheritances come with keys, titles, and estate deeds. Mine came with broken silence and a wreckage of illusions. 2 weeks after the funeral, I stood outside the Collins estate, my childhood home, with the new keys in my palm. The lawn hadn't been mowed. The mailbox was stuffed with sympathy cards unopened. I unlocked the front door slowly. The air inside smelled exactly the same. Lemon polish, old carpet, and tension. Only this time, it wasn't heavy on my chest. It was mine. The first thing I did, went into Dad's study. I didn't touch the shelves. I sat at his desk, opened the bottom drawer, and found it exactly where I thought it'd be, the real legacy he left me. A second envelope. Inside was a letter, dated months earlier. "Ava, this desk always belonged to you. Not because you were the loudest, but because you never stopped being present, even when no one clapped for you. Use this house to breathe. Use the business to build. Use your name however you want. Just make sure it's yours, not the version they tried to erase." I held the letter to my chest and exhaled like I hadn't in years. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I wasn't haunted anymore. Vanessa tried to reach out again, this time through a lawyer. A last chance to split the assets. Amicably. I didn't respond. So she went to the press. Posted a teary photo with the caption, "Some daughters steal while others suffer. Trust no one, even family." The comments turned fast. Because the internet doesn't forget courtroom evidence. Or notarized videos. "Girl, your dad literally left you $1. Nice try, Vanessa. We saw the footage. We support Ava. Stay mad." She deleted it in under an hour. But the damage?
done.
She wasn't just cut out of the will. She was cut out of the illusion. Mom tried subtler tactics. Sent flowers to the estate. No card. Then mailed a check for $200 with a note. "I hope this helps.
Call me sometime.
We can fix this." I mailed it back and signed, and wrote 2 words on the back of the envelope. Too late. I donated the guest house on the property to a local women's support center. Set up scholarships in my father's name. Ones that prioritized girls who had been neglected, written off, or gaslit by their own families. People in town started saying my name differently. Not as a footnote. Not as a question. But with weight. With respect. One afternoon, I walked through the halls of the house and stopped in front of the fireplace. The family portrait was still above it. All of us, 10 years ago, smiling in matching outfits. But when I looked at it now, all I saw were cracks beneath the surface. Fake grins. Bent truths. Power plays behind polite smiles. I took it down. Replaced it with something new. A framed quote from my father's video. "The truth always deserves an audience." It sat above the fire like a crown. And I knew, without shouting, without begging, I'd taken back everything they tried to take from me. Not just the house, but my place. Power doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes it walks in barefoot, quiet, unapologetic, and finally free. 3 months after the funeral, I opened the doors of the Collins estate not as a daughter begging to be seen, but as the rightful owner. No more looking for permission. No more shrinking for comfort. Just space. Mine. I redecorated room by room. Not lavishly. Just truthfully. I tore down the gold curtains my mother obsessed over and let the sunlight back in. Sold off the antique furniture Vanessa used to pose on for her Instagram. In its place, I built a reading nook. Donated part of the library to the local high school. Turned the ballroom, once used for my parents' charity galas, into a co-working space for young women launching their businesses. One girl cried when I handed her a key. "No one ever gave me a start before," she whispered. I understood that ache. Deeply. Because I was once hurt, locked out of every door my own family built. Now, I owned the doors. And I left them open. I didn't touch the study. That was Dad's. But I started sitting in there on Sunday mornings with coffee and silence, letting his words echo in my mind. Use your name however you want. Just make sure it's yours.
So I did.
I took Ava Collins and attached it to something new. A scholarship for girls aging out of the foster system. A local internship fund. A quiet foundation built not on my pain, but on the healing that followed it. One day, I ran into a distant cousin at a bookstore. She looked nervous at first, like I might pretend not to know her. But I didn't. She walked over and said, "I was at the funeral." I stayed quiet. "I'm sorry." I nodded. Not bitterly. Not coldly. Just peacefully. I used to stay quiet too. She smiled, eyes glassy. "Well, we're not quiet anymore, are we?" I didn't rebuild the family. I didn't reconcile with my mother. I didn't give Vanessa a second chance. Because not every story ends with reunions. Some end with a woman walking forward, alone, but whole. And sometimes that's the happy ending. Neighbors started waving when I passed. The florist gave me fresh peonies for free one morning and said, "Your dad would be proud. You turned all that mess into something meaningful." I whispered, "I hope so." But deep down, I already knew. Because my life no longer existed in the shadow of their favoritism, their cruelty, or their neglect. It existed in light. My light. The final room I renovated was the attic, the place I used to hide in as a teenager when the yelling downstairs got too loud. I turned it into an art studio. Even though I don't paint. Because someday maybe I will. And if I never do, that's okay too. Because now I get to choose. And for a girl raised on conditional love, freedom of choice is the most beautiful inheritance of all. The house was quiet again. Not the kind of silence that used to weigh on my chest like guilt. This was the kind of silence that breathed with me, that belonged to me. It had been 6 months since the funeral. 6 months since my sister called me a gold digger in front of our entire family. 6 months since my mother smirked, sealing my social execution with a single sentence. Yeah, he didn't like her at all. And 6 months since my father's face appeared on that tablet and told the world who I really was. I opened his video one last time. I'd only watched it twice since that day. Once to verify. Once to grieve. This time, for closure. The screen lit up. His study came into view. His eyes met mine across time. To the people who said Ava was just here for the money, you're right. I blinked. She was here for what mattered. For the money she never asked for. For the dignity you never gave her. For the family you tried to erase her from, and somehow, she's still protected. His voice didn't waver.
So yes,
she's here for it all. Because she earned what none of you did. He paused, then leaned forward. And Ava? If you're watching this, stop apologizing. You didn't betray us. You just survived us. I closed the laptop with trembling fingers. And I cried. Not because it hurt, but because it finally didn't. I walked out into the garden. The one they never let me plant in as a girl because you'll ruin the symmetry.
Now?
The wildflowers grew crooked and bright. No rules. Just color. Just life. Lily of the valley. Black-eyed Susans. Peonies, Dad's favorite. I sat on the bench he used to drink coffee on and let the wind wrap around me. No ghosts. No guilt. No pretending. A notification buzzed on my phone. A voicemail. From my mother. You think you won, don't you? Enjoy your little kingdom. But don't forget, blood is blood. I listened to the whole thing, then deleted it. Not out of spite, but because she no longer lived in my story. And I no longer needed her to. People often ask what revenge looks like. Sometimes it's fire. Sometimes it's destruction. But for me, it looked like peace. Like freedom. Like sitting in a sun-drenched garden knowing I would never again have to prove I belonged in a family that couldn't even spell my worth. I didn't win. I healed. And that was louder than anything they ever said about me. They tried to erase me with a smirk at a funeral. But my father left them something stronger than silence. A truth they could never outrun. A daughter they could never unmake. And a legacy they never deserved to touch. I wasn't there for the money. I was there to close the door they slammed in my face. And when I walked through it, it closed behind me forever.